The Night Court ASMR. Hello, darling, and welcome to the Night Court. As always, it's your choice, and you have chosen an end of night meditation appropriate for dawn, when another chapter is beginning. Dawn invites us to set intentions, I think, feel encouragement, and heed the wisdom of our own experiences, as well as the wisdom of those who inspire us and have proven over time to have something important to say as we stride into the coming day. So today, I thought I would talk about the wisdom of Shakespeare, because I often see, I do a lot of videos around Stoicism and read a lot of Stoic philosophy, and I've noticed some parallels in certain thoughts in some Shakespeare texts, some of which have just sort of spontaneously come up when I've been reading Stoic philosophy. Obviously, there is a lot more beyond just the parallels with Stoic thinking in Shakespeare, and I thought maybe we'd just explore a few passages that I think can be considered timeless wisdom, and there'll be so much more than just the few things that I'm going to touch on today, but I am a Shakespeare fan, Shakespeare fangirl. But I went to school, university for English, and that's one of my majors, and I really loved my Shakespeare classes. I took a lot of Shakespeare electives and things like that. So, and I just think that you can never have enough, especially in ASMR, sort of beautiful poetic language to lull you to sleep. And if you are in a state of mind to, ruminate a bit more, perhaps, on what I'm saying, you are of course invited to, but you can also just totally zone out and just enjoy some of the language. I think at some point it might be fun to do some Shakespearean soliloquies or monologues on this channel. I've just been thinking about that lately, because there's something, if read properly, or what I consider properly, something kind of soothing about iambic pentameter, or there can be. I think that might be sort of nice to try to fall asleep to. So, before we begin, take a moment to prepare your space and yourself to attend the night court. Ensure that you will be undisturbed and unrequired to do anything but listen if you can, or if you're doing some other task while this plays in the background. I hope that it helps you feel less stressed about that task, and that I'm not distracting you if you, say, have a job where you're putting lives on the line. I don't know. So ensure as much as you can that you can focus and just really enjoy. Now, if you haven't already, turn down the lights, sit or lie back in a comfortable position, as always. Try to make sure your body feels supported, and notice how your attention to these details is already creating a sense of ease. So let's bring our bodies and our minds into a space to listen to some navel-gazy, perhaps, philosophy and some poetry. And as your shoulders relax and your jaw unclenches, perhaps your eyes close, or you're able to just maintain a soft focus, let your ears open and attune to each small sound. Perhaps already visualize a city on the horizon, the cool mountain wind whispering, and the dark embrace of the night. So, tonight, let's explore the timeless wisdom found in Shakespeare's words, letting these insights wash over us like gentle waves. I wish I could say I was sitting here with leather-bound volumes of all the plays, but I've mostly just got used paper copies of these things. So let's try to enjoy some paper sounds to get into the mood. And we'll begin with Pelonius' famous advice to his son Laertes in Hamlet. I think this is a line everyone has heard, so it's a good place to start. This, above all, to thine own self be true. We've all heard that one. And it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. While Pelonius is often portrayed as a foolish character, here Shakespeare places profound truth in his mouth, I think, like a pearl hidden in plain sight. The context is the father's farewell blessing to his son, who's leaving for France. You don't have to have read Hamlet. But among all his advice, this gem shines brightest. Close your eyes with me for a moment. Consider how this message of authentic self-knowledge echoes through the centuries to reach us here. In our age of carefully curated social media presence, and I think there can be a constant pressure to conform. These words carry even more weight. To be true to oneself requires courage. I think it always has. But to look inward with honest eyes is difficult to drum up. So let's sit with this idea for a moment. Breathe in the concept of self-truth. Breathe out pretense and breathe in authenticity. Breathe out the need to please others at the cost of your own truth. It's so much easier to live authentically also when you surround yourself with people who are authentic. And I'm not saying I always do a perfect job of it, but we can get so distracted by the highlight reel when we're browsing online and forget that what matters is that in real life we have community and connection that feels authentic. And it's hard to be honest with other people, which I think is part of what Pelonius is getting at when you're not honest with yourself. So the next passage is also from Hamlet. Prince Hamlet tells us, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. These words come during Act 2, Scene 2, as Hamlet speaks to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern about his melancholy. Even in his darkest moments, Hamlet touches upon a truth that would later be echoed in cognitive behavioral therapy, actually. So there's science there, and in Stoic philosophy, right? And I've talked about this one in other videos. I suppose CBT is really, if not deliberately, then organically anyway, recognizing some Stoic principles that can help people. But Epictetus has a similar quote where where he talks about how it is not, fear of the thing that causes the problem, but is our thought about the thing that causes the problem. I'm paraphrasing. I think I have a short about it because this is just one of my favorite quotes and concepts anywhere. And I love that you see it in Shakespeare, and he's put it so poetically and concisely. There's an economy of language in that there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. You could talk about the concept for paragraphs and indeed entire volumes, but that phrase is just perfect as it is, right? It's our thought about the thing that causes the trouble. And so what we need to do, I think, in terms of when you connect it to cognitive behavioral therapy, the reason that's useful there is because, yes, things happen to us, and we make mistakes, and there's, we experience traumas, but it's not the trauma, right? It's the way that we continue to process it or don't process it, right? So if we view events in a more neutral way, then I think it's easier to take a step back and notice how we feel, and then in terms of practical action that we can take to kind of fix our mood and to live more authentically and to behave in a way that is not coming from a place of like anger or resentment, all the things that trauma can breed, or indeed maybe instead the opposite of anger and resentment, but just kind of fear or shrinking who we are, becoming less than, all that stuff. If we were able to take the events of life in a more neutral way and work on our response to them, work on the way that we think about them, indeed, I think most of us could find more peace that way. Or at least I think that's what these people that I'm referring to are considering. So now let's meditate on this. Feel the weight of these words, okay? Like the Stoic philosophers, Shakespeare recognizes that our experience of reality is shaped by our perceptions, right? The events themselves are neutral. It's the stories we tell about them that give them their emotional charge. So take another deep breath with me. As you inhale, imagine drawing in this wisdom, and as you exhale, try to release rigid judgments about what is good or bad in your life. From Hamlet again, we find these profound words. The readiness is all. Hamlet speaks those words toward the play's end, just before the fatal duel, where everybody dies. It's Shakespeare, everybody dies. It's a Shakespeare tragedy. So he says these near the end of the play, expressing a deep acceptance of, whatever fate may bring, right? Very Stoic indeed. But there's more to it than fatalism. I think that's an important thing to remember about Stoic philosophy too. These people are not nihilists, they're not fatalists. There's this conceit throughout much of Stoic philosophy that we need to be better at just accepting, right? Because you can only change so many things, and indeed you can change the things that are very much in your control, in your sphere of control, and so on. But there's a limit to the control that you can exert over others and over the events, that occur in your constellation. So this idea, I just want to emphasize, is not about being present and prepared to accept life's uncertainties. So let's breathe into this concept of readiness, okay? It's not about controlling outcomes, but about cultivating an inner state of preparedness, like a tree that bends with the wind rather than breaking. So the readiness is all. I'll move on to another text, a Shakespeare play. So, as you like it. Sweet are the uses of adversity, which, like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in his head. Duxneer speaks these lines while in exile, okay? He's found unexpected blessings in his banishment, is the context. So notice how this wisdom aligns with modern resilience psychology. It's kind of a broad term, but I think you can understand from the title what that means. But the recognition that challenges often contain hidden gifts. And I'm not saying that horrible things that happen are all a gift, right? But if we lived a life without challenges, we may not ever discover what we're really made of, or to become better. And in any case, you can't get rid of challenges, and you wouldn't necessarily want to. So I just appreciate this idea that if we're going to experience these things, we may as well find the gifts within them. So let's take a moment to reflect on this. Think about what precious jewels you may have found of in your own adversity, right? What strength or wisdom or unexpected blessings have you found in times of trouble? So from Julius Caesar, moving on. And I think many of us have heard this one, but it's so beautiful I had to include it. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. Cassius speaks these words to Brutus, but beyond their immediate political context, I think they carry a very powerful message about personal agency. So while some things are beyond our control, we do have more power than we sometimes believe to shape our own circumstances. So I know earlier I was talking about sometimes you have to just live and let live, or let go and accept the things that happen. But life is not all acceptance, nor is it all the attempt to exert control, right? There has to be a balance. So I thought it was important to include quotes kind of about both of these things. I think the balance is possible to achieve, or at least a worthwhile goal to try to achieve that balance. But I think more importantly, what's going on here is that it's a message of empowerment, right? Exhale any feelings of helplessness, and remember that while we can't control everything, we can control our response, right? That's such an important Stoic concept too, is that we can't control what happens, we must accept that. But we can generally control, or should strive to control, our response to it. Okay, so let's talk King Lear. Another one of the tragedies. So, during the play's darkest moment, we find this nugget. The weight of these sad times we must obey. Speak what we feel, not what we ought to say. So Edgar speaks these words in the face of overwhelming tragedy. but they carry a seed of healing. So in times of grief or challenge, authentic expression can become more important than social propriety or expected responses. Hopefully it does, right? So I want you to feel the permission in these words, the invitation to be real with your emotions, to honor your true feelings rather than hiding behind what you should feel or what you should display to the world. So, permission. Next, from Measure for Measure. Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. Oh, this is such a good one. Lucia speaks these words about self-doubt and hesitation. How often do our own fears and uncertainties hold us back from attempting something meaningful, right? Take a deep breath and consider what good things might be waiting on the other side of your doubts. What might you attempt if fear stepped aside in your life? Next, I will quote from the Tempest. Prospero reminds us, what's past is prologue. Apart from being just a really wonderful, pithy, beautiful little line of dialogue, what's past is prologue. These words also, though brief, carry deep wisdom about how we relate to our past experiences, I think. So rather than seeing them as burdens, we can view them as the opening chapters of our story. Setting the stage for what's to come. So, try to breathe into this perspective, okay? Your past has prepared you for this moment, and everything that's happened has brought you here ready for your next chapter. So, before we close our meditation on the wisdom of Shakespeare and the Stoics, let's go again to Hamlet. We know what we are, but know not what we may be. So these words, I think, we can look really positively on this. They hold the promise of potential, of growth, and I think that's a nice note to end on, of becoming a seed, right, that contains the blueprint of a flower. We carry within us the possibility of transformation. Okay, what's past is prologue. We can be better. Feel the wisdom of these centuries-old words settling into your being, like stars that have guided travelers for generations. These insights can light our way forward. These words have survived for over 400 years, and I think that's because they touch something timeless in the human experience. And in particular, these things remind us that even though the circumstances of our lives may change, the questions of being human remain the same, right? Questions of authenticity, perception, readiness, resilience, and growth. So as we end meditation, feel the weight, the pleasant weight of this collected wisdom. Not weight like it's a burden, but like it's heavy in a way that has gravitas and has comfort to it, you know. So let these words be like a comfortable blanket, wrapping you in the understanding that generations before us have walked similar paths, asked the same questions, and found some of the same truths. Sweet dreams, darling. And I hope Shakespeare's wisdom can guide your way through both light, and shadow. Now let the dark embrace of the night enfold you. Goodbye. The night